Hey folks, Roland Martin here and welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I'm going to show you how to make a really good, cheap, inexpensive, but yet very effective Alabama rig. This Alabama rig is half finished. This is the 7-hook model. Let me just show you something that's on the internet right now. Let's show you the one that I like a lot. It's this one right here. It's that Hog Farmer series. And if you notice, it costs $38. And that's without the lures. That's a $38 lure. In other words, that's a 7-hook model with 7 actual little minnows and 7 spinner blades on it. And right now I got this thing halfway done, and I've got the 7 blades on it, and I have all the swivels here for the blades. And now I'm going to start adding the swivels for the hook. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But I want to explain first of all how cheaply you can do it. Now, it's a lot of fun making these things. You need some epoxy paint, you need some wire, you need some tools to work with. But you also can get all these components, and I get them a couple different places. I get them at B.A.S.S Pro Shop. They have a lot of blades. For example, I have some of the B.A.S.S Pro Shop blades right here. You can get right in the store. This is the number 4 blade, like I get. Along with that, you can go to the B.A.S.S Pro Shop, and you can get all the little snaps and swivels from the Offshore Angler brand, and they have all sorts of swivels as well. So anyway, that's a big deal. Here's the 30-pound test swivel. Well, that's also, let me explain swivels for just a second. Every single swivel that you buy has a rating on it. For example, here's a Spro swivel, and look at that swivel. It's rated at a 60-pound test. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this up because, see, I live in Florida, and occasionally with the Alabama rig, this is a multiple hook rig. When you throw it on a big ledge, you'll liable to get into a school of fish. When you do, you'll liable to get 2 or even 3 fish on at the same time. Well, if they're 2-pound fish, that's one thing. The 20, 30-pound swivel will handle it. But say you get 2 5 or 6 or 8-pound bass on at the same time, you'll need that 60-pound test swivel or that 70-pound test swivel. So I'm making mine up a little heavier than you probably would normally do. Along with that, I'm also using a little bit bigger bait. Instead of using the small little swim baits on the side, I'm thinking that these are going to be more to emulate the golden shiner down here in Florida. So my particular Alabama rig is going to be customized for Florida. I'm going to use bigger baits, bigger blades, and heavier swivels. Okay, and I'm going to build it cheaply. I said that Hog Farmer bait that I showed you on the internet, it was $38. I'm going to show you how I can build this one right here that you're just looking at for $11.12. That's the total cost that I have in this bait that costs $38. Okay, let me just show you what I'm doing. Well, first of all, let's just start with wire. I get these big coils of wire. And these are actually leader wires, and this is 35 thousandths of an inch wire. That's plenty strong enough. It's about a 500-pound test. But anyway, I take these wires and I cut off these lengths. Like here, I do a double length. I do a length here. I do a length here and a length here. So that's actually about 1.5 feet, and that's another 1.5 feet. That's 3 foot. There's another 1.5 feet. That's 4 feet. So that's about 6 foot of line, 6 foot of wire that I have in this whole rig. Well, just to let you know how much it costs, what 6 foot of wire cost, I buy the whole spool for $10.89, and so 5 or 6 feet's only about less than $1. Okay. Now, to attach those swivels and attach that blade to that wire, it takes a little bit of a deal. You gotta get all these right components. You go to a catalog like Jan's. This is a Netcraft deal. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just buy tackle from them. And you can get these little, well, you can get the Offshore Angler sleeve. That's one that you can get for a B.A.S.S Pro Shop. Or at Jan's, you can get the sleeve, the same little sleeves for next to nothing. These sleeves are like 5 cents a piece. They're just a couple cents a piece. So I slip the sleeve over the wire. I'll show you what I'll do. I'll take the little sleeve and I'll put it over this wire like this and get it down in position. And then I take a crimping tool you can buy all these crimping tools, by the way, at Bass Pro Shop. And that crimping tool, I'll go in there and I can crimp that sleeve in position, okay? And that holds, that crimped in place, that will hold this swivel, that'll hold this little clevis, and that little clevis will be for that little spinner that's gonna be spinning around. Remember, this is gonna have 7 spinners and 7 lures. It's gonna be quite a contraption, because what it does, it emulates a whole school of bait fish. Now, believe it or not, these schools of bass go for these schools of minnows. And at certain times of the year, particularly the colder weather, they get on these drop-offs, they get in these deep areas. Hey, you can really, really catch them on an Alabama rig. Okay, so that's how I put the little swivel on. Now, I'd also, when I've done that, I take a clevis. Now, this clevis is a little bitty rounded thing. It's hard to see. It's that little thing that's hanging down right here in the center. That's this little clevis. And you take the bait. You take now. This is an old Roland Martin big bass spinner that I've had for 20 or 30 years. These blades are all the same size, and they stay the same size. It's a number 4 blade. But 20 or 30 years ago, a Blue Fox made this spinner, and I had plenty of them just to spare. And so that happens to be an old blade I had for an old spinner bait. But years ago, I keep all these things. I keep all the old spinner baits. I tear them apart and redo them and use the blades again. And so that's all, stuff I can factor back in. But if I want to buy new blades, I don't have to buy blades, but I don't need to buy blades. If I were to buy blades, 7 blades are only cost me $1.75. When you buy in big quantities, blades aren't that expensive. And so that's really not a big cost to buy these blades. Now, you might wonder what these little things here are. This is an old lure, and I just had an old tiny torpedo laying around. Here's a brand new tiny torpedo. You've seen tiny torpedoes. And there was just an old one that was just all rusted up, and the hooks were bad. So I just kind of cut it in half, and I epoxied it. And I put this, I use this JB Weld epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy. That's one deal. And then also I use the JB Weld, the regular black. And it's very, very strong. And these are all welded together. And of course, that's almost a 500-pound test wire. So that is a really, really, really heavy-duty deal. Okay. Now, I bent these wires. I stuck them up in there and I epoxied them. Okay. Now I came and I put the little sleeves on there. I put the clevis on there. Then I put the little ball bearing swivel on there. You might say, well, the ball bearing swivel, that's a pretty big deal. Well, again, you can buy them pretty cheap. If you get the ball bearing swivels, now here's the deal. The swivel that holds this blade in place doesn't have to be very strong, because nothing but just the blade's going to be on that swivel. So you don't need a big, expensive, big, heavy-duty swivel. So you can get by with a cheap, lightweight swivel. The cheapest swivel is fine. You don't need a big swivel for that little bitty blade. However, when you come down to the end of the deal, and now you have a swivel at the end for the actual hook that goes on the jig, now you need a strong deal. This is when I use the 60-pound. This is actually a Spro 60-pound test snap swivel with a little barrel swivel. It's not a ball bearing swivel, it's a barrel swivel. And it's rated at 60 pounds. Now, 60 pounds is enough, I think, to hold a couple big 8-pound bass together, hopefully. Not that I've ever caught 2 8-pounders at a time, but you never know. Wouldn't that be something? Have 2 big 8 or 9-pounders on at the same time? And that's what you can have happen with the Alabama rig. If you build it properly, with the big heavy-duty components like I'm talking about now, hey, you could possibly have a rig that could hold 2 big 8-pounders at one time. I've never done that. That's my goal. I'll tell you if it ever happens. But anyway, it can happen. But we do catch 8-pound bass and even 9-pound bass on the Alabama rig, single fish at a time. That's something we do quite often. Okay, so when you finally factor in that you need a better, stronger swivel to hold the big swim bait on, you need also, was talking about the swim bait. Let's talk about the swim bait just real quick. I work with Yamamoto. Yamamoto makes big heavy duty jig heads as well. And this is a real heavy duty jig head. for a real heavy hook, real heavy bass. And now I can take that big hook, which is suitable for an 8-pound fish. It's not going to straighten out with an 8-pound bass. And I'm going to take this 4.5 inch swim bait. I'm going to come right down through there. Now I can even epoxy it in place. That might be what I'll do. This will be my center one. This will be the bigger one. Now here, kind of the deal that I do on the Alabama rigs. Once I put all these baits on there, this bottom bait, which is the farthest back bait, it's usually the biggest one. Okay? Then I'll take the next smaller size bait, which is this one right here. See, this bait, this is one from actually this is a speed shad from Bass Pro Shop, but that's smaller. See, this was 4.8. This is only like 3 1/4, 3 1/2. That's a smaller size swim bait. Okay, I'll put those on, and those are the other 6 I'll put on there. 2, 4, 6. I have 6 in that pack. And by the way, that whole pack costs about it's about $5. Now that $38.50 that you saw on the online thing, that was without the baits on there. It'd be about, you have to factor in about another $10 for just the lures that you're putting on here. So now you're talking about, if you go buy the catalog and you go buy a lure, a big Alabama rig, you probably have at least $50 in one lure. That's why I throw it on a 65-pound line. You say, well, Roland, what do you do with the Alabama rig? I said, I throw it on a 65-pound test line. Number one, I don't want to lose that lure. It's a $50 lure. Well, in this case, it's not $50 because my whole total component cost is $11.12 to make this right here. That's not counting the old lure I found and I cut in half, and that's not counting about the $7 or $8 worth of jigs and baits that I have. So I'll have about $20. I'll have like $20 in this rig. And if you were to buy it, you'd have $60 or $70 in it. So I'm just saying, you know, that's why I use heavy line. I use a big heavy rod. I make a nice cast. I don't want to backlash and break the whole thing off. I also have a great big hook. It's a big saltwater hook I use for grouper fishing and stuff, and I got it on about a 1,000-pound test rope. And when I hang an Alabama rig up in an old brush pile or a stump or a rock, I'll drop that whole big thing down on the low ring, and I'll snag it with that big old shark hook. I'll pull my Alabama rig. I probably will break a hook off or break a wire or something in the process, but at least I haven't lost that $50 or $60 lure that you see right here. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, making up some Alabama rigs. It's really a lot of fun, and it's I just like to piddle with stuff. It's, you know, I have a nice little shop here, and when I have a rainy day like we have today, it's a perfect time. I can make 2 or 3 Alabama rigs. Hey, I hope this kind of helped you out, but I just want to tell you, Alabama rig has a real place in this fishing world. A lot of states have a moratorium on Alabama rig. Can't even use them. Some states can only use 1, 2, or 3 hooks in this state. However, in Florida, I'm blessed with the situation. Some of the states we have, like Arkansas as well, and Alabama as well, you can use 5, or in this case, in Florida, we can use 10 hooks. I'm not going to make an Alabama rig with 10 hooks, but you can use 10 hooks. This will have 7. So anyway, it's kind of neat to have multiple hook rigs, and it's just an interesting way of fishing, and it really emulates that school bass, and sometimes you catch the biggest fish of the whole day on the Alabama rig. That can be the deal. Okay, hey, listen, folks, thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. We really enjoy bringing this to you, and hey, hit that likes button. We'll see you again soon.